So if we have multiple different users and we want to assign multiple different permissions to different users, then what we use is advanced ACL permissions. This is called advanced ACL permissions. Now ACL means access control list. If you go to Windows and right click on any other file or directory and open and go to the properties, you will see the security tab there. And in that security tab, you will see the permissions, list of permissions, like you will see the user's name and users or group name, and then you will see different permissions for them. So that is also called ACL in Windows. Now same here in Linux, if we want to assign different permissions to different users, then you can use advanced ACL permissions. Now every machine, every file or directory has their own advanced permissions by default, ACL permissions by default. So by default, all files and directories has their own permissions, which we say default permissions. Have their uh, default ACL permissions. Now to check current ACL permissions of file, or we can say directory. Files or directories. So we can use this command, get FACL, and then we will mention file or directory name. So either we can mention file or directory name, or I will write a file name so that you can understand. So whether you want to check the ACL permission for file or directory, you can use the permission. You can use the command get FACL command. Now if you run this command, it will show you the current permissions of any file or directory. So for example, I have logged in as a root here, and right now I'm in under this directory, test directory, and there is one file is there, and we can see the file contains the default information, default permissions. So this default permission is also a default ACL permission because we have not changed anything here. So we can check this by using the command get FACL and then file or directory name. And now we can see the default permissions here. It is saying that the file name is this, owner is this user, group owner is this user, and this is the default permission. It is saying user owner is getting this permission, group owner is getting this permission, and other user is getting this permission. And that is what we also see here when we give ll command or ls-l. Now if we want to modify the permission, like for example what we have in our scenario, we are having 4 different users and we want to give 4 different permissions to those different users. Like user 1, we want to give read, write, execute. User 1, we want to give read, write, execute. And for user 2, we want to give read, write. User 3, we want to give only read. And user 4, we want to give no permissions. So we can do this by using this ACL permissions. So for setting the permission, we will use set FACL command. Set FACL command and then hyphen M option. Hyphen M option is for modifying. Hyphen N option, M option is for modifying the default permission. Now you want to modify, then you will mention what? U. Now U for user. Then colon, you have to mention the username. So I want to give permission to user 1. Then colon, then you have to mention the permission which you want to give. And this is the syntax. So I want to give user 1 read, write, execute. So as it shows in the permissions, you will type those permissions like this, not like a XWR. You will type read, write, execute as they show up in the sequence in this permissions when you show. And then after this, you will mention the file name or directory name, whatever you want to assign. So you can mention the directory name or you can mention the file name which you want to assign the permission. I'm using this file because I want to assign the permission on this file. Now remember, if it is in any other directory, then I have to give the absolute path. Right now I am in the same directory, so I'm not giving absolute path, I'm giving the local path, like I'm giving directly the name, and enter. Now this is what I changed permission for user 1, and I gave user 1 read, write, execute. So to modify or to assign ACL permissions, we use this command. Now what I'm doing here, giving user 1 read, write, and execute permission. Now if you want to give other user permission, so same as this, you can give like set FACL hyphen M, then U, then you will mention the username and then what permission you want to give. For example, user 2, I want to give read, write only, and then file name, and this means what? I'm giving user 2 read, write permission. Then set FACL, again you will set FACL hyphen M, and then you will mention I want to give user 3 read only for this file name, and that means what? I'm giving user 3 read only permission. And now if you want to assign user 4 no permission, then again you can mention user 4 minus. Now this means what? No permission given to that user. That means giving no permission to user 4. So just like that, you can assign multiple users permission one by one. So we have already given user 1. Now I want to give user 2 read write on this file. Then I want to give user 3 read only on this file. Then for user 4, no permissions. So just like that, you will assign permissions to different users and different permissions. Now suppose you're having 50 or 100 or 200 users, and you want to give 50 user read write permission, 50 user read write execute permission, 50 user read permission, 50 user no permission. Now if you're using like this one by one, if you're giving permissions, then it will take time. So what we can do here, we can give permissions to group. That means we create groups, separate groups, and we make members. That means the 50 users which we want to give read write, then we make those users member of that group, and then we can assign permission to that group also. So not only single user we can assign permission to groups also. Now we have one group sales, and I want to assign permission to that group. So I will run same command. Now here, instead of U, I will say G. G is for group, and then I will mention the group name, and then whatever permission I want to give, I will mention that permission, and done. So if we want to if you want to give same permission to multiple users, then we can do this by creating group and adding users into group and giving permission to that group. So how we can do this? We can do this by using same setFACL command -m, and then instead of U we will mention G colon group name, then permission, and then we can mention whatever file or directory name, and that means what? Giving read write permission to group sales. So this is how we assign ACL permissions. Now if you want to check again, then again we will use the same command, get FACL, and now this time we will see all those command, all those permission which we have assigned. Now what is it saying here? Again the owner is remaining, owner is root, group owner is also root. Now this is the default owner group permission. Now it will remain as it is, it will not change. That means owner user will still get the same permission what we have given to what it is there. We have added extra permissions for extra users like user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4. Then group owner is still getting the permission which is default, but we added one more group there with this read write permission. And then when we add this permission, when we add this ACL permission, it add this mask here. Mask means because we are adding this permission, different users, we are adding all the permissions like read write execute and all that. So it add that mask also for that indication, like we have added this different permissions. Now others are having still the default permissions are, that means all the other users will get the read permission from this others. Now remember, user 3, if I don't give this R permission, still it will get the read permission from this others. Or if suppose I don't give this read permission separately for user 3, but still it will get the read permission because it will consider in others. It will consider in others. But actually what, this permissions, this ACL permissions will always override the default permissions. Now that means what, if suppose I remove other permissions, I remove read permission from others, but still the user 3 will get the read permission because I have mentioned it in this ACL permission. So ACL permission is overriding the default permission. That means if I remove the other read permission, but still the user 3 will get the read. You can just verify here by user 4. You can see the user 4 is not having any permission. So in ACL permission, we said we give no permission to user 4, but still others are having the read permission. That means all the other users are getting the read permission, but not user 4 is getting the read permission, because this permission, ACL permission, is overriding the default permission. So default permission will not apply for user 4 because the user 4 is added into this. So user 4, for user 4, the default permissions will not apply. So what? This ACL permissions this ACL permissions will override the default permissions, or let's put it into note. So this ACL permission will always override the default permission. Now we have assigned the ACL permission. Now let's verify that these users are getting the permissions or not. So what I will do, first I will log in with user 1 in another terminal. So this is the terminal. I will log in with user 1 here. So I will say switch user 1. So I logged in as a user 1. I will go to that directory, that is test. The file is there in the test directory. Now one more thing, when we check the this get FACL command, we see the permissions which we have modified. Now if you check the file with this ls command, you will see here the default permissions, but in group side you will see this mask. It is actually the mask which is in the group side. You can see it shows here. It is not showing the default permission. And also you will see this. You remember I told you that this indicates what? Advanced permission. Now right now previously it was dot, now it is saying plus. So you can see here, when there was no ACL permission, it was saying dot. So when it is dot with any file or directory, then you can say that this file does not contain any ACL permission. And when you see the plus symbol, that means the file contain ACL permissions. Because when you run ls command, you will not know that this file is having an ACL permission or not, because by seeing here you may assume like this is a normal permissions and this is not an ACL permission, but it is an ACL permission there in a background, and you can see you can verify by seeing this plus symbol. So when you see the plus symbol, then you know that okay, this file may contain some ACL permission. Then after that you can run this command to check what the ACL permissions are. So this is means what? ACL permission indication. And I have already told you that this part indicates the advanced permissions. Now we have logged in here with the user 1, and now it can see the permissions. Okay, now user 1 has all the rights, so it can read the file. Now can it write the file? So it can try to write the file, and it can write the file. It can edit the file also. Now can it execute the file? It can do read, it can do write. Now can it do execute the file? Now executing the file, remember executing the file, that means what? The file could be a binary file, or maybe it's a script. So how we can execute a file? That means how we can execute this scripts. So for executing the script, whenever any programmer creates any script, what they do for the identification of the script, like we are having a language of a scripting language, let's say we have bash, we have python, we have perl, we have ruby. These are the languages which we use to create these scripts. Now suppose somebody creates the script in bash file, so it bash script, so it will be run, it will be executed with the help of bash shell, and it needs the bash binaries to execute. Binaries, we can say, like additional helping softwares. So whenever you run any script, you need the binaries for that, or binaries, or suppose you need additional softwares to run that script. Now if it is in shell script, then what? the programmer will do what? It will add .sh at the end of the file name. Now why they do that? Because Linux does not care about extensions, but that extension for us, that means we know that this is what shell script. If the programmer create the script in Perl script, Perl language, then it will do what? It will add file name .pl. If it is created the script in Python, then it will add .py. If it is created the script under that is what we are getting into it, Max. Good. We will see how to remove the permissions. Now we are just checking it first. So what I am saying, if the script is created under shell script language, then what it will do, what programmers do, they give a name. They basically assign the extension so that anyone who is going to run the script, they know that it is to be run with shell, it is to be run with Perl, Python or Ruby. So they add extensions, like if they are sh language, then it will add file name with .sh. Now remember, this extension is not for Linux. Linux will take it as a name, but this is for us. Like we should understand, like, okay, this is in shell language. If it is in Python, they will add py. If it is in Perl, they add pl. If it is in Ruby, they will add rb. Now this thing is only for us to understand. So if you know that this is a shell language script, that it is a shell script, then what, for running it you will use this command, sh command, sh and then file name. It will be run. Now if it is written in Python, then you will use the Python command and then file name. Now remember, for running the shell script in Linux, you don't need anything else, because by default you are having a bash shell. But for running a Python script in Linux, you need to have installed the Python binaries, Python softwares to run the script. And for that, when you install that, then you will get this command. Otherwise this command will also not be there. And when you run the script, it will say Python needed to run the script. So if it is like this, and if it is in Perl, so you will use the Perl command. Again, the command will not work if you are not having a Perl software installed. Then if it is written in Ruby, then you can write Ruby command and then file name to execute it. Again, if it is not installed Ruby, the command will not work and you can't run it. It will say Python needed, Perl needed or Ruby needed. Now the file which we have here does not have any extension, and that is actually, it is not having any script, but maybe you will find out the script which is not having any name, any extension. Now that does not mean that it is not a script. It is still will be the script, because Linux will take it as a script, but for us, we don't know which kind of script it is. So now for running it, what we can do, we can use another way, and that is the other way is what? To give a absolute path with the file name. Remember, to give absolute path. Now absolute path, that means where is this file? So I want to run that file. So the file is in this directory and this directory is under slash. So the absolute path is slash, no command, nothing you will give, only the path and the file name. Only the path and file name and enter, and it will execute. Now it is executing because there is no, it is not a script, it does not contain any file name, any commands or anything. So it is saying command not found, but this is executing, it is not giving any error. Why? Because user 1 has a permission to execute it. Now remember, I did not use any command to run like sh, Perl, Python or Ruby. I just give the absolute path to execute the script. Now, when you run this when you run the script with the absolute path, so machine, our Linux will itself identify the script and it try to find out that software. Like if it is written in Python and when I run the script and if the Python is not installed, then you will get error first here that Python needed or Perl needed or Ruby needed. For shell script, it will not give anything because shell is by default installed. But the shell is the default shell. Shell is a default shell is here. So it is running, it is executing because this user is having a permission to execute. And one more thing, if you don't want to give the absolute path, like I'm right now already in that directory, this is an absolute path I'm giving and I will say like you should use absolute path, but because I'm already in the test directory, so I can use local path also. If you see, I'm already in that directory. So local path means what? You can use dot. Local path means you cannot directly use the name of the file. You have to use dot. Now dot means what? Present directory. Right now I am in the directory test and I want to say that it is the present directory where the script is, then slash and then the file name. This is what this is a way of giving local path for running the script. So if you want, then you can give the absolute path and it will run without any command. But if you want to give a local path because you're already in that directory, then you have to mention the dot like present directory for and then slash file name, and it will also execute. Now it is not executing without, it is not having command, but we can execute it. This user can execute it. And you know, when user have permission, then if user tabs incompletes, if user has permission, then when user tabs the file name, it will complete. And also remember, if the user does not have permission, it will not auto complete, the file name will not auto complete. So this is how we can run any executable script or binary, and this user is having a permission, so it can execute it. Because for user 1 we gave permission read, write, execute. Now we will give what? We will check user 2. User 2 we gave only read and write but no execute. So I am opening one more terminal here, and on this terminal I will log in as a user 2. So switch user 2. Okay, now I will go to the test directory and this is the file. Now user 2 has only read write permission and it is not having execute permission. So what I will do, I will try to read the file. So user 2 can read the file. Now I try to edit the file. It can execute the file. It can edit the file because it has a permission to edit the file, and it can edit the file also. Save. Now we have not given execute permission to this file, this user. Now it will try to execute. It will try to give the absolute path and it is not completing. Now it is not completing also. Okay, I will type it. Admin file. And what it is saying? It is saying permission denied. And it is saying what? Permission denied. Either it is I'm using absolute path or local path, I will get this same error, permission denied, because this user we have not given write permission, execute permission. So it can read the file, it can write the file, but it cannot execute the file. Then user 3 we gave only read permission. Now in this terminal I will log in as a user 3. Now I logged in as a user 3 and I will go to the test directory. And this is the file. Now can it read the file? Yes, it can read because we gave read permission to user 3. But can it edit the file? Permission deny. Can it execute the file? Permission deny, because we have not given execute permission also. So only read, no write, no execute. Then for user 4, I will log in as a user 4 here. User 4. Now remember, user 4 we have not given any permission. So it can see the file here, list the directory, it has the permission. Now it try to read the file, no permission. Now remember, I told you that if it is not readable, then it cannot write and it cannot execute also. So we don't have to check the permissions, other permission. It is denied. It is denied. So all the permissions are denied for user 4. It cannot read, it cannot write, it cannot execute also. So this is what the permissions, ACL permissions we have assigned, and we have not assigned now after this what we want, we can remove any user from ACL. Now for that we will use set FACL command with X option, -X, and then we will mention the username like user 3, and then we will mention the file name. So it will remove the user 3 entry from the ACL list. Like we are having this. So first let me check get FACL. Now we see that we have these entries for user 1, 2, 3, 4. Now suppose I want to remove user 3's entries from here. So what I will do, I will run set FACL -X user 3 on this file. Now it removes that user entry from that ACL list. Now when you check it, now you can see the user 3 is not there. we removed the user 3 only, but all the other users are remain. So if you want to remove any other user or maybe any other group also, you can do that by using -x option. So it will do what? It will remove user 3 from ACL list. So it will remove the permission of user 3 from the ACL. Now, if we want to remove all the permissions, all the ACL permissions we created, and we want to make it as a default one. So we can remove all ACL permissions also. And for that, we will run set FACL command with -b option. So we will run set FACL -b, and then we don't have to mention any permissions because we are removing every permissions. Then we just have to mention the file name, file or directory name, and then it will remove what? It will remove all ACL permissions. So this command will do what? B option will remove all the ACL permissions from the file. So when you check it now we removed only user 3, but user 1, 2 and 4 is still there, and this group is still there. Now I want to remove everything, so I will run set FACL -b in the file or directory name. Now it will remove everything. When you check get FACL, now you can see it goes back to the default permissions. So whatever the extra permissions we have added, it is removed. And when you check ls command, you can see now it is showing dot again. That means now it does not contain any extra permissions. So this is ACL permissions. Now after ACL permission, now this is what advanced permissions. Now after this advanced permissions, let's see a little more advanced permissions. So we have seen now advanced permission. Now we'll go for more advanced permission. Now more advanced permission, I can say it is more advanced permission. But do you remember I tell you that what is the UMask? I told you that what is the UMask of user, root, and what is the UMask of other users. So when we check the UMask for users, so when you check the UMask for root user, it says, we says like UMask is 022, but it is actually 0022. There is an extra 0 which we don't mention. And for the user, normal user, when we check the UMask, it says, we says like it is 002, but it is actually having extra 0. Now extra 0 means what? It is for different permissions. Now that 0 always remains 0. We don't change it normally. And when we assign permissions numerically also, like when we assign permissions like this ch mode, and when we assign any permission like I want to assign read write to everyone, read write, but I'm mentioning only 3 parts. That first 0 always there, and when I don't change it, it will remain 0 whether I mention it or not. So it will remain 0. It is not like 3 parts. It is actually fourth one. This fourth one always remains 0 until we change it. And that 0 is also having 3 bits. Now this 0, that means here also we have 3 bits. 3 bits, that means bit 1, its value is 1, bit 2, that value is 2, and bit 4, the value for that 4 is 4. Bit 3, that has a value of 4. So actually it is also there, but we don't mention it. Now why we didn't mention it? Because it is not a normal permission, it is actually advanced permission. Now what that advanced permission is? So the first one, I said it is a 0, and we can mention it. We can have 1 there, we can have 2 there, and also we can have 4 there. Now suppose if we have 1 there, that means if we enable the first bit of that 3 bit, so we get the value of 1. So that one is called sticky bit. It is called sticky bit. That first bit is called sticky bit. Now what is this sticky bit? So in a U mask we see uh, four in a U mask, or we can say we have U mask for root user is 022, but we have extra 0 in that U mask, and it will remain 0 until we change it. So whenever we assign permissions, numerically we don't mention that 0. It is also 3 bits there, that means 3-bit permissions. So it is also a 3-bit permissions, and that 3 bits means I will create a table for it, like 1, 2 and 4. These are bits, and what we get decimal value, and what we get, not permission, but we can say feature. So if this bit is get on and remaining bits will get 0, then what value we get? 1. Now what feature we get is called sticky bit. It is sticky bit. Now if this bit is 0 and this bit gets on, this bit remains 0, you will get 2. Now what feature you will get is SUID. No, SDID. Then if this bit and this bit is 0 and this bit gets on, you will get number 4. And what you get here is SUID. This is the feature you get. Now I will convert it into table. And oh, okay, so this is what we get.
Mr. Taki, I'm requesting for the upper part.
Okay. Like this?
Yes, sir. I'm done, Mr. Taki. Thank you so much.
Okay, so this is what it means. So when you see the first bit is on, you will get the decimal value 1, and that means sticky bit. Second one, you will get the value 2, and that means SDID. And the third one, if the bit gets on, you will get 4 and you will get SUID. Now first we will see sticky bit. Sticky bit, that means decimal value 1. Now what this do? What is this sticky bit and what is the use of this sticky bit? Now let me show you first the use of sticky bit. Let's go to the machine. Now this is the directory. Now what I want, I have a file here, and I think I have removed permission for every user that they cannot do anything on this file. They can do only read that file. Let's check the permission first. This is user 1, so it can read the file, and can it write the file? No. User 1 can't do this. Can user 2 do this? User 2 can also read. Can it write? No. So I remove the permission for these users because this is administrator file, this is root users file. Now user 1, user 2, they can't do anything on this file. Like user 1 can read, user can 1 can only read, not write. But user 1 can create its own file. So user 1 try to create its own file u1, and it says that this file is of user 1. Now this is user 1's file, and if you can see the permission of the file, like user 1 is the owner and only user 1 can write and other users can only read. Okay, now user 2 cannot edit that file of the administrator, but it can also create the file of its own. User 2, it says that this file is of user 2, so don't try to edit this file. But nobody can edit because other users have only read permissions. Now user 3 can see all these files, and can it read the file of administrator? Right? Can it read the other users file? Like user 1 read, user 2 read. Now can it edit the file for administrator? No. Can it edit the file of user 1? No. Can it edit the file of user 2? No, it is not having permission. It is not having any permission on these files. It has only it is getting other permissions, like only read permission. Now this user 3 gets angry. It says, I don't, why they are blocking me, and why they don't want me to edit the file. I will delete the file. rm user 1 file. It says remove, this is write protected file, and it says you want to remove, yes or no. Now I am saying yes, and what? It is not showing any error. Let's see. Okay, it has removed the file. Now it has removed the file of user 1. Remember, that file belongs to other user, that file belongs to user 1, the owner was user 1, and this user 3 does not have a permission to write the file. It has only the permission to read the file, but it can delete. It can delete the file. How is it possible now? Now it can delete the file for any other users, and also it can delete the file for root also. Now why? Because on this directory we have given permission to all the users. If you check the permission of this directory test, we have given other users write permission. Now write permission means what? Write permission means what? They can add anything on this directory, and also they can remove anything on this directory, whether it is belong to administrator also, whether they don't have any permission on that file itself, but still they can remove that files, remove that directories inside that directory, because on this directory they are having write permission. So because it is having write permission on the directory, it can do what? It can delete any user's file without permission also, whether the files are not having any permission. But if I don't give write permission to this user, remember, if I don't give write permission, then it cannot create file also. That means it cannot create file also in this directory. So for giving a permission to create a file in the directory, we have to give a permission write. But what if I give write permission? It can delete any file, that means any user's file. And there is a problem here. And the solution is what? The sticky bit. So what happened when you give right permission on directories to users, then they can add files in it, and also they can delete files from it. Now whether files whether files belongs to any users. That means if it is not having any permission, if it is not having any right, the file belongs to any other user, they can still delete that files because that user get the right permission on that directory. So if the user has right permission on the directory, they can add the file and they can also remove the file from any user. No matter the file belongs to who, they can delete everything, and that is what a problem. Now if you don't want to give them a right permission, then they are not able to add it also, and they cannot add the files. So the if you want one directory, if you want to give one directory to multiple users to create their files, but you don't want to interfere with other users file, so that means what? If you want to give multiple user a directory, to create files, but do not want them to delete other users files, then we use then we use sticky bit on that directory. So this sticky bit we use only on directory. We don't use it on files, but we can use it on file. We can give it, Linux will take it, but no reason, no benefit. It will take it. We can give a command, it will take, but there is no benefit of using sticky bit on any file. So we will use sticky bit on that directory, so that it will allow other users to create files, but they cannot delete other users file. That means user 1 can create file, user 2 can create, user 3 can also create the files, but user 1 cannot delete user 2 and 3 files, user 3 cannot delete user 1 and 2 users file. So they can do what? They can delete their own files, but they cannot delete other users files, and still they all can create files in that directory. And that is the benefit of using the sticky bit. So if you are using a directory which is working, they are working in collaboration and they are using a same directory for creating files, then you don't want them to delete each other's file. So then you use this sticky bit. Now to enable the sticky bit, how we can enable it? So very simple, the command is chmod. Chmod, and then the permission, whatever the permission of the directory, like for example I am giving all the permission to user owner, all the permission to group owner, all the permission to other users. But if I don't mention anything, this will remain 0. But I want to change it now. I want to make it sticky bit. So I will make it 1 here. And then we will mention directory name. And this is what numerical way of assigning the sticky bit, of enabling the sticky bit. So if you want to do this, now you see so because the user was deleting the file, now what I will do, there is only one file remains, that is user2 file. So I will enable the sticky bit on this directory. So the default permission for this is this one. I will change chmod, and the default, like I will give all permission to this one, but I am enabling sticky bit, so I will give 1 here and then enter. Now when you check the permission for the directory, you can see here in others permission you see T here. Now that T means what? The directory contains sticky bit. The sticky bit is enabled. And then you can see here the color is also changed. It is not like this one, it is changed. So this means what? The sticky bit is enabled on this directory. Now when you check it, now this T means what? Sticky bit. Now that means if you want to assign sticky bit in symbolic way, then you will use this chmod other user plus T, and then you will mention directory name, and this is what? This is symbolic way of giving or enabling sticky bit, because you see it is adding T under the others permissions. Now let's check what happens after this sticky bit. Now again I will create file for me. This is admin file, and now user 3 can see both the files of user 2 and user admin. Now user 3 can create its own file. Now this user wants to remove the file for user 2, so it will use command rmu2, and then it says yes. And now what it says, operation not permitted. Now why it is not permitted? Because it is not able to delete, because the sticky bit is now enabled. If it try to use it F option forcefully, still it cannot delete. It says operation not permitted. So not even it can delete the file for normal user, it cannot delete file for any other user, not admin, not any user, admin file, no, it cannot delete. But if it wants, then it can delete its own file. Like user3 file is this u3 file. u3 file belongs to user3, so it can delete its own file. As you can see, it can delete its own file, which file it's created, but it cannot delete any other user's file. So this is what enabling the sticky bit. Now if you want to remove the sticky bit, or we can say disable sticky bit, so we have two options. We can use chmod, we can use numerical way, and for that we use 0, specifically 0777. Remember, if you don't mention, if you just say like this, then it will still remain 1, because when you don't mention, it will remain the default one, that's the previous one. And then you will mention the directory name. And if you want to remove it symbolically, then you will use chmod, and you will say other minus e, and then directory name. So this is numerical way of removing it, and this is symbolic way of removing it. And this is what sticky bit. Now the rest of the thing is SGID and SUID. I think I will do it next time in a next lecture, because it will take lots of time.